Welcome to the deep dive. We've got a monumental stack of sources here. We're looking at the comprehensive Week 3 recap from the WEAR Sports Network. And our goal, really, is to give you the absolute fastest route to being the most informed person in the room. We are not just summarizing scores today.
Exactly. We are diving deep into what was, just true chaos in college football this week. Our mission is to go past the box scores and pull out the statements, the trends that are starting to form, and of course, the major shakeups that just fundamentally reshape the league.
Right.
When you look at the raw data, the volatility is just staggering. The top of the rankings was completely reorganized, and we saw offensive patterns that are, genuinely historic. Like one team, LSU, scoring exactly 83 points in 2 straight weeks.
That specific detail is just a mind bender. And it's a perfect example of the kind of nugget we want to pull out for you. But, before we get into the team chaos and the ranking upheaval, we have to talk about the individuals, the players who just showed up and completely dominated. Their excellence was really the foundation for the week's biggest wins.
Absolutely. The players of the week were simply lights out. And their performances, they weren't just numbers on a page. They were directly responsible for their team securing these massive road wins.
Okay, let's start on the defensive side, because this is a stat line that,
Yeah.
it looks like it was generated by a video game. We're talking about Penn State middle linebacker Amar Campbell. The sources are calling this maybe the most complete individual defensive performance of the season so far.
And that designation is definitely earned. Campbell was, as the source materials note, making plays at every level of the defense. Just look at the balance in his achievement. He had 5 total tackles, which, is a solid base, but then he adds 2 tackles for loss. For those unfamiliar, that's 2 TFLs, stopping plays behind the line.
Right.
And he paired that with 2 interceptions and 2 pass breakups.
2 interceptions and 2 TFLs in one game. So he's blowing up the run at the line of scrimmage, and at the same time, he's locking down passing lanes way downfield.
It's the definition of a defensive fulcrum, a player who just impacts every single phase. And what's fascinating here is that his performance wasn't wasted. It was crucial to Penn State's huge 52-40 road win over Michigan.
Well,
Without those turnovers, those pressures, that game likely swings the other way. And that has massive implications for the rankings, which we'll get to.
so if Campbell defined defensive balance, Georgia running back Nate Frazier defined, I guess, offensive explosion. This is volume and efficiency at a level we rarely see, even in Week 3.
Unstoppable is really the only word for it. Frazier handled the ball 18 times on the ground, which is standard workhorse volume. But he turned that into 249 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns.
It's just incredible.
That's an absurd 13.8 yards per carry.
And he didn't stop there. This is why he got the overall offensive player nod. He showed that hybrid ability. He had 2 catches for 97 yards and a receiving score. You put that all together, he finished with over 340 total yards of offense and 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's not just a career day. That is carrying the entire offense on your back.
It absolutely was. That was the engine that powered Georgia's 42-28 win over South Carolina. When you have a player accounting for 5 scores and that many yards, it just simplifies the entire game plan for everyone else. It's a statement performance. It really sets the bar for what excellence looks like this season.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's move from those individual statements to the institutional results that caused all this upheaval. This week wasn't just about upsets. It was about shocking blowouts, historical collapses, and just statistical anomalies that you can't predict.
And we have to start with that specific, just bizarre trend that is the LSU Tigers offense. It is simply unprecedented.
They hosted Florida. They won 83-39, which is a massive scoreline on its own.
Huge.
But the truly specific detail, pulled right from the source material, is that this is the 2nd straight week LSU has scored exactly 83 points. What does that even mean?
What's so fascinating is the mathematical improbability. Scoring 83 points once is an extreme outlier. Doing it twice in a row against 2 totally different defenses, it suggests either a radical shift in offensive philosophy or 2 straight weeks where the opposing defense just, quit. We have to look at this not just as high scoring, but as a system failure by the defense against a hyper-efficient attack. It signals a complete identity shift for LSU.
We're now 3-2. Yeah.
Right, and it's fueling their rapid climb in the rankings.
But can that be sustained? Is that a trend you can trust? Because if LSU is going to average 83 points a game, they're unbeatable.
Right.
But that kind of outlier performance,
Yeah.
it usually fizzles out.
It raises the big question. Is this sustainable execution or just schedule-based chaos?
Right.
We'll see. But, if LSU was showing a radical new offense, Ohio State was showing a historic institutional collapse.
That is the understatement of the year. I still find this score hard to believe.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech delivered one of the most shocking results of the season. They march into Ohio State and win 49-10.
On a road.
On the road, against a perennial powerhouse.
That result is seismic. And it has major implications beyond just this season. Georgia Tech improves to a perfect 4-0.
Right.
But the story here is Ohio State, falling to a disastrous 0-4 start. For a blue blood program, 0-4 isn't just bad, it suggests a fundamental systemic failure. Coaching, recruiting, execution,
Everything.
everything. A loss like that, 49-10 at home, just severely punishes the program's confidence and their future recruiting.
It changes the entire narrative for their season.
Yeah.
And speaking of narrative shifts, the previously #1 ranked team tumbled just as hard. Texas Tech went on the road and just dismantled Texas 42-14.
The swiftness of that defeat is what really shocked voters.
Yeah.
Texas Tech established dominance early, and the final score honestly didn't even reflect how one-sided that game felt. This result directly reshaped the entire top of the rankings, which is why we saw such dramatic movement. Texas Tech improved to 3-0, proving their legitimacy, while Texas, the previous top dog, slips to 1-1.
Yeah, when you have the #1 team losing by 4 touchdowns, the polls don't just adjust. They basically tear up last week's rankings and start over.
Precisely. And that wasn't the only major road statement. We saw Penn State's win over Michigan, which we mentioned, pushing them to 3-1, and Auburn stayed undefeated, winning 45-31 on the road at Florida State. Auburn's now a strong 3-0.
So the trend is clear.
The trend is clear. Successful teams this week had the mental toughness to perform in hostile environments.
It was definitely not a week to trust home field advantage. Let's quickly run through the other key blowouts that contributed to the chaos before we get to the new poll.
Okay, so we saw Nebraska dominate USC 41-7. Nebraska stays undefeated at 2-0, a massive statement win for them. USC, on the other hand, continues to struggle badly at 0-2.
And maybe the most decisive defensive win of the week was Miami shutting out Clemson completely, 17-0.
Wow.
Miami is perfect at 3-0, showing that defensive muscle, and Clemson is now struggling at 1-2.
A shutout loss is just devastating for your ranking. It suggests total lack of offensive identity.
Yeah, you have no answers.
No answers at all. And finally, we saw Alabama take care of business, dominating Utah 59-14. Alabama's 2-2, kind of working its way back after a slow start, but Utah is now 0-3, still searching for that first win.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture,
yeah, what you're seeing is the true separation happen. We have clear, strong, undefeated starts. Georgia Tech at 4-0, Nebraska and Auburn at 3-0, Miami also at 3-0. These are the teams establishing the new order. And conversely, you have your struggling programs, specifically Utah and Arkansas, both sitting winless at 0-3. The league is dividing quickly.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. How did all these upsets, these blowouts, and that bizarre 83-point thing, how did it all translate into the new top 25? Because this wasn't just shuffling. This was a full-scale reorganization.
The movement was profound. The #1 team, Texas, being dismantled, led directly to Texas Tech taking that top spot.
Up from #3.
Up from #3. That win bought them immediate legitimacy, and the voters responded instantly.
And Miami holds steady right behind them at #2. They're 3-0, and it just proves that consistency gets rewarded. But the climbers are remarkable. Penn State jumped from #7 all the way up to #4 after that huge road win.
And Georgia also climbed significantly from #10 to #5. But if we're looking at the real Rockets, Georgia Tech, thanks to that shocking 49-10 road win,
At Ohio State.
they rocket from #22 all the way up to 13. A 9-spot jump is massive. It shows the voters are truly buying into their 4-0 start.
And Nebraska, too.
Yeah.
A huge leap from 20-12, staying undefeated.
Yeah.
My favorite narrative, though, have to be LSU. Fueled entirely by those back-to-back 83-point games.
Even if we debate if they can sustain it, they jumped from 16 all the way into the top 10 at #10.
That's what historic, just unprecedented offensive output does for you. Makes voters assume success, even when the data is strange.
But the downside of that volatility is seeing the fallers. And they fell hard. Oh, yeah. Texas, the former #1, tumbles from 1 all the way down to 7.
Brutal.
That is a brutal drop. It confirms that a blowout loss just hurts more than a close one. Arizona State slid from 5-14, Michigan dropped from 6-11, and Clemson, critically, dropped from number 8 to 15 after that 17-0 shutout.
Yeah, when your offense gets completely neutralized, your stock just plummets.
Exactly.
We should also talk about who re-entered the picture, because a few teams fought their way back in or, just arrived for the first time.
Right. Alabama re-entered the rankings at 19 after their decisive win over Utah. It shows the voters still have a lot of respect for their trajectory. And we also saw 3 brand new entrants. Missouri at 22, Baylor at 24, and NC State rounding out the list at 25.
Which just shows how much the bottom half of the poll was disturbed by those major upsets at the top.
For sure. And a couple other big drops outside the top 15. Kansas State fell from 9 to 20, and Florida slid from 15 to 21 after that historic beatdown by LSU.
That one game just wiped out all their poll equity.
Completely. So what does this all mean? If we synthesize this for you, the listener, the takeaway from week 3 is absolutely clear. Consistency is the most sought after and most rewarded trait in this landscape.
Right.
The ranking changes reflect a stark separation. The undefeated teams are establishing themselves as legit contenders. And the chaos from these lopsided results means any weakness is going to get punished brutally by the voters. The margin for error is shrinking fast.
Absolutely fascinating. So to quickly recap the week's 3 essential takeaways, we saw historic, highly unusual offense from LSU that just defies probability, a massive season-defining upset from Georgia Tech over Ohio State that caused real institutional damage, and a major shakeup at the very top with Texas Tech claiming the new #1 spot. You were officially caught up on the chaos.
And for our final provocative thought for you to consider, given this extreme volatility and these really unusual trends, specifically LSU's back-to-back 83-point games and Georgia Tech's 4-0 run, what are the chances that these anomalous offensive patterns can actually sustain themselves? Can they prove they're truly elite? And maybe more importantly, will the current top 4 teams, now under all this scrutiny, be able to hold their ground against the pressure from these climbers who are gaining confidence every single week?
Something substantial to mull over until next time. You just got the shortcut to being well-informed on the Week 3 shakeup. Thanks for taking the deep dive with us.